What did everybody think? I'm going to bring down a special guest. He's one of the producers of the film, and you've also just spent the last hour and 45 minutes watching him work his magic, the star of the film, Joshua Jones.
Thank you, Joe.
Before we start, this is the second time I've seen the film. I'm sitting back there watching it just now, and you're talking about the history of Texas Music Revolution. The very first one, they have the date, March 2nd, 1997.
Yeah, how weird is that?
Today is March 2nd.
Yeah, I don't know.
2024, happy anniversary.
Yeah, happy Texas Independence Day to all you non-Texans.
So we were talking a little bit before the film, and we were talking about the festivals that the film's been playing at. It's been going around to a lot of festivals, and you said to me that 6 months ago you'd never been to a film festival. You've never.
Yeah.
And so what's it like now? We're celebrating the anniversary of the very first Texas Music Revolution, music festival. This film was made on the 25th anniversary, and here we are on the anniversary.
Yeah.
You're here in Omaha, Nebraska. You're watching your film. You've been to all these festivals. What's this journey been like for you?
Life is weird, man. 28 years ago, when I threw the first one of these, I just thought I would sell some tickets, book some bands, and I was actually 6 years old. I'm just kidding. But yeah, man, I was really young and really dumb, and I thought I knew everything, and I had no idea that I would be doing it. For 28 years, I had even less of an idea that it would someday, have a documentary. And it's really just it's been a wild ride, man. Like we say in the documentary, the average lifespan of a music festival is 2.5 years. So it is noteworthy. I'm certainly proud of that, but I can't really take credit for it. There were a lot of people who paved the way for me, and like I say in the movie, I'm kind of standing on the shoulders of the greats who came before me. That being said, this film festival world's pretty wild. Like you mentioned, I hadn't been to one in my entire life before 6 months ago, and the movie's premiered on both coasts. We've sold out a couple screenings. We've got 4 or 5 more festivals in the next 5 or 6 weeks, and it's all surreal, man. I've loved it, and yeah, we're already halfway through our next movie. So there you go.
So I want to talk about the beginning of this documentary. I read that you wanted to do something special to celebrate the 25th anniversary of the music festival, and you had an original idea from what I read that you thought maybe we can do like a coffee table book.
Yeah.
And then the idea came to do the documentary. As I read that it sounded like it was your idea to do the documentary. Troy Paff, the director, was a friend of yours. Is that accurate? Is that kind of what happened? It was your idea?
It is.
And then you brought the people together to tell the story?
I thought, and I had several people tell me this, like a lot of times I'll call buddies of mine who are agents or managers in Nashville, or, maybe sometimes it's the bands themselves. And every year I'm just like, well, it's that time of year again. And man, my life is just so mundane because here we are talking about the end. I've had several people that have called me out on that, and they're just like, dude, you are so blessed, you're so fortunate. Like, there are no other festivals around that have been around as long as yours has in this area. So like, stop moaning, stop whining, and the fact that you've got your 25th anniversary, you should do something really special to commemorate that. And so yeah, I thought, well, let's just do a coffee table book. And then I realized the first one of these was 1997. Nobody really carried their cameras with them in their pockets until 2007. So all the first 10 years worth of photos are real dark and cavernous and low res. So that we scraped that idea. We talked about the film festival for a long time. I actually met Troy. Troy Paff is an amazing cinematographer, Emmy Award-winning guy from his work on the TV show Dirty Jobs and Bizarre Foods. And I was at a crowded restaurant on a snowboarding trip in Taos 12 years ago. And he and his wife and their baby girl, gosh, it was probably 13 or 14 years ago, were just standing around waiting for somebody to get up so they could have a place to sit at this really, really incredibly crowded restaurant on a Saturday night in Taos, New Mexico. And I looked at my buddy and I was like, dude, we've got too much room for just you and I at this table. I'm gonna go ask that guy if he and his wife and little girl want to join us. Hopefully it won't be too awkward. And that's how we met. And so I've been playing in this fantasy football league for 12 years, and now we made a movie.
So I'm curious, trying to put together a music festival. I know how challenging it is to put together a film festival, right?
Yeah.
Putting together a music festival, there's so much stress, there's so much pressure. Now you've got a film crew following you around. Did the cameras add to the pressure of that, or did you just say, I'm just going to do what I always do and let them handle that? Or how involved were you?
It was, I thought the camera crew was cool for about 48 hours, and then it felt kind of intrusive and invasive. But I made a commitment, so I stuck it out. It was interesting, with my son Locke, who was 4 at the time, when I finally got on the phone with Tony after 18 flipping years, and then Locke busts his lip on the slide. It was just, man, there was some magical moments, and not that was magical, because I felt really, really, really defeated in that moment. And now Locke is 7. He hates watching that part. He's really he's become a much better communicator. Also, really quick, I'd be really remiss if I didn't say this. So Tony, who's just one of the best people on the entire planet Earth, and who I'm so glad I've reconnected with. So his daughter Clara has that beautiful rendition of Amazing Grace on there, and she and her husband Tanisha are here tonight. They drove from Kansas City. They've never seen the movie before tonight, so I just want to recognize them and thank them for coming up and being part of the movie. And it was they were there. They saw the storm. They saw me aging quickly by the minutes that evening. But I'm happy you guys made it.
We're going to open up for questions from the audience in just a sec, so get your questions ready. Speaking of Tony Villanueva, how cathartic was it for you that you have this sit-down moment with him after 18 years? To me, that was kind of a very raw moment where you're exposing your insecurities, your thing you've been living with for 18 years, and you're letting everybody in the world that's watching the film in on that moment.
Yeah.
Was it ultimately cathartic though? Talk
yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean, it was humbling. It was even more humbling that he didn't remember it. This memory that's been hanging over me for so long. But yeah, man, it was. I just remember that night at 12th and Porter in Nashville, which is a historic venue, and Ricky Skaggs was on the bill, and God, who else was on it? Maybe Junior Brown, and I was really, really, really drunk, and I mean really drunk, and then I saw, oh my gosh, the Derailers are here. This is terrible, and yeah, man. So it was funny just kind of getting that off my, being able to get that off my chest, and talk to him about that. It was less so about that particular moment and just the, kind of reconnecting with him. And I don't know if you have people in your life that they improve who you are just being in their company. Like, they make you a better person. If you don't have friends like that, I highly suggest it and I highly recommend it. But Tony is one of those people, like, just having him in my life, just the occasional phone call, or if he's swinging through town now and we grab lunch or something, I'm a better person because of that dude. And hopefully someday somebody will be able to say that about me. Probably not, but that's all right.
Okay, we'll open it up for questions. Anybody have any questions right here?
Yes, ma'am.
So I have recently just discovered the gem that is Charlie Crockett.
Oh, yeah.
And I went to my first concert of his last year.
Where was it?
It was here in town.
Okay.
What's it called? It's so cool.
Yeah.
Everybody's been here. But so I'm kind of really getting into that for music. Is your radio station streaming online?
Yes, there's a KHYI app, and yeah, you can stream online through the app worldwide, or just the old-fashioned website.
background documentaries as well.
All right, Keith.
Bet your director was delighted when it started raining. Because he was going, I've got now got a story.
Oh yeah. Well, you know that's.
Well, there's a place to go, turn off the cameras.
Yeah, no, it's really funny. So Keith's suggesting that the director was really happy when it started raining, and it's actually a funny story, because when we started out on the making the documentary, Troy pulled me aside and he said, "Hey, listen, if everything goes smoothly, and this is like a home run, we'll have an okay documentary. But if at the end of the music festival you are shaking your fist at the sky saying, 'Why God, why?' we'll have a much better documentary." So he was really, really, and he didn't really like tell me that much until afterwards. He was like, "Oh man, it was so awesome."
More questions? Yeah, back there.
Yes, ma'am.
Just two things. One, Charlie must bring the rain because he got rained out at Blue Ox last summer after 15 minutes.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm never gonna book him again.
But a question for you. I was hoping the Drailers might surface and do one set with Tony, or at least one song.
Yeah.
What happened there?
That was ultimately the goal. And I know that, Brian and Claire, you probably have your own version of these events. I know that Brian's got some hard feelings that are kind of pent up, and I know Tony's probably, coming to the music festival and doing a gospel set is one thing, but actually opening up that door to go back to not to the Derailers, but perform with them, I think would be something else, and I just don't think he was there yet. I'm not sure either one of them were. Yeah.
I have a question about the musical acts themselves. Some of these questions might not be specific to you. They maybe would have been better for like Troy Paff,
Sure.
or the editor. But you've been doing appearances with them, so you might know the answers and can speak on their behalf. When you're putting together the film and you've got these musical performances that you include, what's the process that you went through in choosing them? There's 2 days of festival. There's dozens of acts, and then how do the music clearances work on something like it?
It's terrible. So first of all, we all had a hand in the music, but our editor, we found this guy. He's in Cincinnati. His name's Brandon Ferris, and he had just done this documentary that NBC Universal bought called $1 Billion Babies. And it's about my most favorite subject in the world, which is Cabbage Patch Kids, or Cabbage Patch Dolls. I'm being sarcastic. I don't really like Cabbage Patch Dolls. But he made this documentary about Cabbage Patch dolls, and it was fascinating. I was on the edge of my seat about something I cared nothing about, and I just got like drawn in by his editing. And so Brandon was just superb, and he brought a lot of the, he researched all the artists that were playing the festival, even the ones who didn't make the movie, and really came with some strong musical suggestions that fit the edit. Troy and I had some, Snake Farm by Ray is obviously throughout the movie. But yeah, and I would say as far as clearances, film festival clearances have been pretty easy. We've got a music agent who's working on our behalf, and we probably have about 15 grand, 20 grand into the film festival licensing, and we're negotiating broadcast rights into perpetuity right now, which is commercial broadcast rights into perpetuity, which is going to be another probably 80 to 100 grand. So I'm glad everybody's here tonight because we need an angel investor. I'm just kidding. But yeah, so that's kind of what it's looking like right now.
Any more questions? I have a question about Kiefer Sutherland.
Yeah.
Was he part of the 25th? Did he perform?
He was not, man. And so I'll tell you that story. You can't ever leave this theater. Someone called, I guess it was TMR 20 or 21, and was like, hey, Kiefer wants to come play your music festival. And I was like, well, that's kind of weird. Let me hear the album. The album was really good. And we've had people who are really famous play our music festival before. And normally what happens is, say they're supposed to go on at 7 p.m. Their people will get there at 3 or 4, and we'll be setting up all day. And then that famous person will get there at 6:55 or 5 minutes right before they're supposed to go on. They'll pull up in a black Suburban with a driver, and they'll get out. They'll go straight to the stage, and then everything will be set up. They'll walk out. As soon as the set's over, they'll leave. And that was my expectation. And I was so Kiefer was probably supposed to go on around 6 or 7 the evening that he played, 6 or 7, 8 years ago. And I was in a trailer that I was using as an office backstage, and it was probably noon, maybe 11:30, and someone was knocking on my door, and I just assumed it was an intern, and I was like, oh my gosh, nobody, leave me alone. And I opened the door, and it's Kiefer. And he says, hey, I'm Kiefer Sutherland, I'm looking for Joshua Jones. I'm like, well, come aboard. And man, we hung out all day, traded numbers, and have just had this weird friendship of, I've gone on the road with him and spent a lot of time, had the opportunity to spend a lot of time with him since then. And it's always weird whenever he calls. I usually have just taken a bite of a sandwich or something awkward. But I told him maybe 3 or 4 years ago I was going to make this movie, or that we were in the embryonic stages of making a documentary, and he was like, man, I want to help. How can I help? What can I do? And I'm like, yeah, I can't afford you. And he's like, no, don't worry about that. Just what can I do to help you? And I was like, well, you have a pen and paper, because I've got a list. So that's sort of how Kiefer got involved in the festival and in the documentary.
Any more questions? Well, Joshua, thank you so much for bringing this film to Omaha. Thank you.
Honestly, I just want to say thank you, Joe, and it's really an honor to be in Omaha, but it's also really, really an honor that you guys, watched it and spent some time with us this evening. So thank you very much. Thank you, all of you guys, for being here. I have questions for every one of you out there. I'm just kidding.
Joshua Jones.